Without the power of God behind everything I do, I really am completely inadequate.
I'm helping the culture. These guys are part of us as well. You know, these guys are our cousin. I'm helping the culture. I'm pushing the culture forward in another way.
Hey, black child, be what you can be, learn what you must learn, do what you can do, and tomorrow.
What do you do after you read? What do you do after you know all, right? And you can say that you're truly conscious. How are you putting what you know into action?
This is the Initiative Radio Show, shifting the paradigm through conversation on any and everything relating to our communities and culture. Now introducing your new girl, Jasmine Renee.
What's up? Good morning. I'm late. What is it, 10:17? So I'm 17 minutes late. But this is the Initiative Radio Show here at the Good News Radio Station. It's Saturday morning, and I'm glad to be here. This week was pretty cool. It's cool because I was thinking about, like, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was kind of irritated and wanted my week to be over, and was just kind of waiting for Friday. But then the past few weeks have been, like, pretty dope. I haven't really been, like, overly anticipating the weekend, which I think is a bad thing when you're going through, like, your work week. To just be anticipating, like, the end of it. I think you should learn how to enjoy the spaces that you're in for the time being. But, yeah, that's that. Keith is in the studio. What's up, Keith? And then shout out to Jackie. Mysterious Jack started her show called Ladies Night yesterday, and that's been something we've all been anticipating at the station. So all love to Jackie and her whole crew and all of her team for putting in the work that they have been putting in, and then for just seeing it come into fruition. And then Zena's in the studio. Yay! Zena's here. She's new to the station. I just met her, but she has a show Wednesday mornings at 9 o'clock. So on your way to work or while you're at work, because a lot of people do like office jobs and stuff. So just, put your earphones in. I know a lot of you guys are probably not working anyways. So go ahead and listen. You probably are working, but you're probably doing other stuff too. Never Not Extra was talking about that, how they're at work, like watching videos and stuff. So, I can't because I have the kids. I wish I could tune them out, but I can't. But yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit about what your show is on? Yeah, you're on.
Okay, so Ask Zena is all about coaching and employment and career opportunities.
Okay.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay. And I've been in human resources and a consultant for 25 years with all the major studios. So I'm going to be giving people an inside view on how to get a job, how to get seen, get interviewed, and get hired, really how to package themselves. So anyone from the janitor to the receptionist to the CEO, how to get in and get hired and navigate that job opportunity and that job search. So and also life coaching. So
that's dope.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool. Because I think we have sports shows, but no one on the show. Well, now we have Chill Real Radio, so I guess it's kind of mellowing out. But at first, I was like the only one that was kind of like calm and mellow. Everything else was like on the up and up. So it's like cool to see that we're diversifying. But yeah, that's dope. I love community, so that's definitely helping us out, helping others out. So I appreciate that. That's really a dope concept that you're bringing to the network.
Everyone needs help. Everyone has a question, and they don't know where to go. If you're an employee and you're thinking your boss is doing you wrong, who do you go to? So I can help you navigate through that process, understand what corporate is looking at, but also understand how you can benefit yourself in a company environment. So it's cool.
That's dope. So, yeah, I definitely applaud you for that. That's super cool. Are you having hosts as well, or just you?
No, I will have guests. So
Okay.
my first show, we will have a guest. We'll have a gentleman who's been in prison for 31 years.
Wow.
And who is now gainfully employed and doing really well, has his own home, has his own car. So think about being gone for 31 years.
That's a lot.
Right? So
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And you were like hands-on with him?
No, actually, so the show is really about, are you hireable?
Okay.
And it's about mindset. And so his mindset really shifted the reality of when he got out of prison. So he was in prison from the time he was like 18. Now he's like 60.
Wow.
So, and he is gainfully employed, productive, and his approach and positivity is amazing.
Right.
So are you hireable is really about what your beliefs are. Everyone is hireable.
Right.
Yeah.
That's super dope. So make sure you guys, is there an Instagram or something they can follow?
They can. You can follow us on Ask Zena.
Okay.
And it's Zena. No, Z.
Okay.
Zena.
Okay. So Ask Zena. Make sure you follow them and then tune in. And if you know anybody, let's push this show. If you know anyone that is looking for a job or even for yourself, just tune in so you can get the resources. Even if you have a job, you might be looking to go into another career field or something. So I think this will be pretty resourceful for us. So let's make sure we get this out to those that we know need it. Because I know there's a lot of people that are looking for jobs. There's a lot of people that are like, in between. So make sure you do that. But yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for bringing that idea. I think that's super dope. That
Thank you.
When people think of others and then want to use their platform to give back to others, that takes like a special person. So I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, we have somebody else. Jeffrey's in the studio. If you remember back when Keith and Dre were on this show, that's my boyfriend. They were talking about him. So he's finally down here. So shout out to him for being in the studio. But yeah, so a little bit about things that have been going on this week. A lot of things have been catching my attention, but it's nothing new to like community and culture. I did want to talk a little bit about voting and my like perspective on it. I don't necessarily care to vote. I am gonna vote because it's I don't care to vote. Now, I don't care to vote. I don't care to vote. But I am going to vote. I definitely am because I do understand the importance of it. And I do think that even aside from our opinions on things, that there are necessary things that need to be done to help push things. Now, if Obama came back, or if I had the chance to vote for Obama, I would have voted for Obama. But there's just a lot more going on to me, and I feel like there needs to be a lot more of the hands-on work, and I feel like the political system is not made for Black people, people of color. It's kind of a white thing, and we've been trying to infiltrate it for a very long time, and even when Obama was in office, like it didn't benefit us. It didn't benefit us as Black people. So for me, it's just one of those things where it's like, yes, I do understand the necessity or the seriousness of voting in your local elections and especially the midterm elections. But I'm just not a fan of it. And I'm literally only voting. Shout out to Dre, even though he's not here and he's supposed to be here. Because he was the one that got me to register to vote. He was the one that kept pushing numbers, and Dre is the owner of the Hub Radio in Compton, and he would tell me the numbers every time we met up. He would always tell me the numbers in Compton, and it's like less than 20% are voting, and there's I think there's 45,000 registered voters, and there's only 3,000 active voters in the city of Compton, and that for me was like, if I'm a part of that problem. And if there are things in Compton that I don't like, I do have a opportunity to vote for that. And if it's not just me voting, but helping push like other people to get those things changed, because that's something that's like a direct effect. But yeah, so him. Shout out to Deja Iman. She's somebody who's been pushing it. My friend Taylor, who's also like helping me with the back work for Initiative, she's been talking about voting a lot. So like shout out to my friends and the people that are around me that have just been like, yo, you need to vote, you need to vote. And not that they've been telling me, because I know in my mind, once I registered, I told myself like I would. But there's just a lot of people, and it's all over social media. Everybody's talking about it. So the work that people have been doing, at least for me, it has paid off, because if this wave of voting wasn't put into place for like the past few months, I would not be going to anybody's polls. But don't think that I'm just sitting on my behind and not doing anything. I'm active in the community, and I feel like there are a lot of things that need to be done. A lot of people need to roll up their sleeves and get stuff done when it comes to one-on-one interactions with people. There's a lot of things that need to be done when it comes to the police brutality, or when it comes to raising our men, when it comes to raising our girls. And like I always say, I'm in the face of our Black and brown children all day long. And when I tell you there's so much work that needs to be done on a one-on-one level with them, and those are things that voting cannot fix. Even if the school system is failing our kids, there are things that we as their family members, teachers, or just friends, whatever, need to be doing to help push them. So if you can kind of understand where I'm going, my vision on change is very much so getting dirty and getting my hands dirty. When it comes to voting, I don't feel like I'm getting my hands dirty and helping anyone like directly. So I'm not saying like, oh no, just don't do anything. I'm saying for me, when I think of how I can make a change, it's going into my classroom every day, talking to these kids, and then seeing them at the end of the year become or grow into something different. With voting, it's just not a direct thing that I'm seeing. So that's my perspective on it. But Zena, are you voting or?
I am voting,
Okay.
and I agree with you. I'm Black and brown, so I totally agree with you. I think that we need to be more involved. I believe that the political hierarchy, they do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And however they skew those numbers, they skew those numbers. But I think that there's a huge calling for us, Black, brown, all of us, just to come together as people and start doing things and start taking control. Right? And stop just pacifying or passing the buck and saying, I'm not going to do this. It doesn't matter. Well, just get involved. You can get involved by just getting involved in your local community.
Right.
You can get involved by just seeing the person on the street and lending a hand, whatever that might be.
Right.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
To shout out back to what you're doing, because even if we do pass laws that are helping employment, there still are people that are not hireable. So then when it goes back to what you're doing, it's like, okay, yes, we're voting to put this legislation in place, but then how are we helping these people get into these jobs? Because there have been initiatives and organizations that have, opened up, job opportunities for people, but then it's like, do our people know how to? Because when they're coming out of these school systems that are just letting them, pass by, and then when they become adults, it's like, oh, now I don't know how to do anything because I passed with all D's going through school, or no one really took the time out to tell me that I should be a better person. So it takes like people that are doing things like you on the side of voting or along with voting, they have to put that work in too. So I think that's necessary. But in the comments, Jackie is here. She said, I love you too, Jackie. And she said hi to Jeffrey. Have you met Jackie before?
I have not.
No? Okay. Well, yeah, Jackie, you have to. I thought you were coming. You told me you were coming. But I'm sure you're tired and positively overwhelmed from last night's show. And hungover, right? Jackie is crazy. We went to Milwaukee and Jackie was turned up. I'm sitting back like, yo, okay. But I love you, Jackie. And I'm very, very proud of you. Very proud for the show. I've personally been waiting for the show to come out. Like, since you guys, when did you guys stop? Before I left, you guys stopped the show. Like in June.
Yeah, it was like June 1st.
Right.
Yeah, something like that.
And then, I had only been here for a little under a year, but it had been such a ritual for me that when I came back from vacation in like September, it was like, I was looking for those things because it was like I had been away from so long, and I'm like, I'm looking for those things that I normally do. And before I left, that was something I would either pull up maybe or just listen on my phone. I'm like, oh, let me go pull up. And I was like, they don't even have the show anymore. But it was weird because it had been done for like 3 or 4 months. So that's definitely, it's definitely cool to have Jackie back on the mic. And you're back on the mic too. So both of you guys are, which is cool. Yeah. More comments. Yes. Oh, Jackie said it ended. It didn't end in July. I was gone in July, Jackie.
July 1st. That was a 200 show.
No, it wasn't.
It was.
July. I was gone.
July 1st.
I left June 24th.
July 1st.
June 1st?
July 1st.
I was in New York.
Maybe it was June.
She said July.
I'm going with Jackie then.
Okay, so I was in LA and New York at the same time. Okay, and shout out to Willis. He has his Sunday show on Sundays at 5. Chill Will Radio. Make sure you listen to him. I listened to the episode on suicide with his guest that called in. And that was a super dope conversation. It was very deep. I was cooking and I was like, whoa, okay, this went, and she was just very open and told her story and gave a very clear cut description of what she went through. And it's necessary because a lot of people go through traumatic things that lead to suicide, and I'm but it's heavy to hear sometimes, the things that people go through. But we definitely need to pay attention to mental health and check on ourselves. But that's not what I wanted to go to, because this show will turn into a mental health show, and that's not what I'm trying to do. But another thing when it comes to voting, I don't know if you guys heard about the guy, Danye Jones, that was lynched in Ferguson in his mother's backyard. So, in this climate right now, for the past few months, we've been talking a lot about voting. And I think for black people, or not even black people, I'll talk more on a personal level. If I was his mother, voting wouldn't be in my mind right now. What they're doing with politics wouldn't be in my mind, because she's also an activist. Because they just, lynched my son. And I was reading about it. There's 5 other instances that have happened in Ferguson with black men being shot and burned alive in their car. And that happened twice. Or another one with a man being hung. So it's just when you're dealing with those things in the city that you live in, voting and getting to those polls is not what you want to do, because clearly the people that are in control aren't reprimanding the people that are doing this. So it's kind of one of those things where you're so if I vote, will we be able to stay alive? Because you guys are pushing this first. You guys are pushing this a lot. But then at the end of the day, I cast my vote. Somebody gets in office. But then while you're getting in office, somebody else is also dying because of this. And it's those kind of conversations that I'm I want people to understand. I'm not telling anyone not to vote, but I'm just saying those are the things that kind of are on my mind, where it's okay, yes, so someone is getting a win out of this, but as the black community, as the brown community, are we getting a win from actually voting? Do we get to stay alive? Do we get to be looked at as people even after we cast our votes in? So that's just kind of a thing that's been going on with, I can say with Ferguson. When I was reading, it was for the past, it's 2018 now, and I'm pretty sure there were more, but I think the first one that was in the article that I read was in 2014. And it's not new to them. So for us, it's new, but it's not new to them at all. Back in the comments, Willis said he's listening at work. Jackie said, my bad. Yeah, I think it was June. Chris said, what's up, Chris, from the Get Right radio show on Saturday mornings at 10. Sunday mornings, because I'm here. Sunday mornings at 10. He said voting is a scam, but I still vote. Voting is a scam. I my opinion isn't on that. So you have to elaborate a little more, Chris. Yeah, call in, Chris. But yeah, so I'm not against that thought process, but I just don't have anything to back that, so I can't push it. But I want to hear what you have to say about that. But yeah, those are things that we're currently going through, and I think at this point in time with this, life that we're living, and that this point where we have to be mindful, especially like with Black people, we have to be very mindful of where we are in spaces, because it's not just cops that are shooting us. It's now just random white people or just random bystanders. It's not just, we have to be mindful when we're being stopped by a cop, or when we're arrested, or when we're, in the midst of the law. Like, now it's kind of everywhere. You kind of feel like you're an outcast wherever you go if you don't see people that look like you. So that's that. But did you have anything to say on that? I know I said a lot.
So I was thinking when you were saying mindful, one of the things that came to mind was there's a book called Divine Matrix by Greg Braden. Okay. And he talks about 1% of a community, if collective energy, that they can change the entire community. Mm. So one of the things that I think of in terms of voting, that are we voting with the right intention? Mm. So are we voting with the intention to remove people, or are we voting with the intention of a higher a higher, positive, more embracive society? So I'm all about actions and intentions. So I think that when people go out there and vote, and they have the mentality like, this is not going to change anything, and then they go cast their ballot, then obviously you're putting that energy out there. So rather than voting, if you just shift your energy and think about the community and how you can serve the community and do something different. Right. So I think that there has to be a shift. We have to shift from not just like them against us, what they have done to us, but what are my gifts, talents, and abilities, and how can I best serve my community? So if we come from that perspective, no one can stop us. Right. No gun, no anything can stop us, but we don't come from that perspective. And being Black and brown, and I just moved from Arizona when Arpaio was doing those whole sweeps. So he was driving around in his people, and they were stopping people. So I had to get my son at the time like an ID, and he was 8 years old. So imagine this 8-year-old now having to carry an Arizona ID to walk around because they don't know whether he's Black or he's brown. Last name is Contreras. They're going to have to pick him up. I didn't know. So it was all about shifting his mentality, like, you are empowered, you're a good kid, you do this, you go home, you say certain things when people approach you. You don't, even though it's offensive how they're approaching you because you figured that they're singling you out, but you handle this differently. So I think if we can make a shift, we would definitely be more empowered, that our vote would count. Right. But if we don't make that shift, and we continue to think it's us against them, the energy is going to be more us against them, because that's just what we're going to draw into it. So I'm sorry. I went off on a tangent. But
you're fine. No, I definitely understand that, and then I also understand the other side where I think in society makes it hard to not feel like it is, X, Y, and Z. And I think even when you talk about community, I think, because what I'm thinking is like, here, none of us are politicians, right? But if Keith is doing what he's supposed to be doing, and then Keith has now opened up a platform for you and I, we're now, all giving back into the pot, Absolutely. Where it's like the outsiders or whatever that don't even step into here, they have no say on what happens in here. We still function and we still run because this community works. So I think when it comes to that, outside of politicians, regardless of what color they are or what race they are, I think the people living there, because a lot of times these politicians are not coming from the places where they're serving. So I think the people living there have to get on a united front. And like you said, if everybody's doing what they know that they can do, no one will feel left out because you're giving. If I know how to farm or something, and I'm doing the groceries, I'm providing the groceries, and you're giving your money back into me, or I know, he knows how to cut hair, so now our kids are going here, we're going here to do that. When it comes to school supplies, I do this and that, or I know how to make clothes, the uniforms for the kids. It's like the money is now all, circulating, and it doesn't even need to get outside to the people that are not in the community.
Absolutely.
And I think if we focus, and I do agree with what you said, if we focus on how we can help each other, what they do on the outside, it wouldn't affect us. Because just like I said, with the radio station has been what it has been, but it's successful. And no one can come in and be like, oh, we want to govern what's going on in this station, because we show up every day that we have a show. You know, yours is Wednesdays. We have Never Not Extra on Tuesdays. Even the ones that are out of the state, their shows go up Monday, Friday. So it's like, as long as that's working, no one can come in and say, okay, this needs to happen like this. Now, if we all stop showing up, they're going to be like, yo, Keith, you know, your people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Do you need help? Do you need, you know, that government aid to come in and get them back on track? But as long as we collectively come in every time we have to come in and we do what we need to do, no one's going to think that Keith needs assistance with governing his business. Yeah. So that's something that if we all do our part, I think we'll be able to stand alone.
Absolutely.
We'll be able, because there's teachers in our communities. There's even you look at churches, there's preachers, there's people that cook, there's people that sew, all in our community. And we don't know who it is.
We are sustainable.
Yeah.
We are. And so thank you so very much, because you're actually adding value to the community by using your voice. Mm. So I challenge a lot of people to find out what your gift is.
Right.
If your gift is just your voice,
right,
then it's just your voice.
Right.
If it's your hands to sew or bake or cut hair or whatever, then that's your gift. Use it. Mm-hmm. Use it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times we devalue ourselves, and this is kind of segueing into, I didn't give this too much thought, and I'm not going to directly talk about this, but I don't know if you saw the girl from Dr. Phil that was kind of like, I'm not black or whatever.
Do not get me started on her.
Right. And my thing is, I don't even necessarily want to talk about that like verbatim or that complete scenario. My thing is just, when I was looking into it, I'm like, first of all, there's a lot of people in our community that feel like this. And I feel like if you don't have a pride about yourself or about what it is that you're attached to, there's no way that you can give back to it. And I feel like that's the root of the problem, where a lot of times we devalue what we are. And when you devalue what you are, you can't give back to what it is that you came from. And I think that mindset, and without necessarily putting her on a pedestal or saying, let's talk about this, I think that mindset is what corrupts our communities. And it makes us, you have to realize, like, if you are a seamstress and you don't think that you as a person are what you are, or you're not how do I say this? If you're not connected to who you are, like who you are as a person, I think that affects the work that you put out there. So you're going to also feel like the work that you do is not good enough. You don't feel like you as a person is good enough. So then everything that you do is not good enough. So now we need you to come and sew this stuff, but you don't even think, you're not even good with who you are.
Exactly.
So now we can't even use you. You don't even feel competent enough to give back to us because you don't feel competent as a person. And I think that is what has corrupted our community a lot, is where we don't take pride in who it is that we are. We don't take pride in it. And it's like, so how can I show up to this show every day and talk about black issues if I'm not proud to be a black person?
Exactly.
Or how can I show up in front of my kids every day and teach them if I'm not proud to be who I am? How can I teach them that? And quite frankly, if you're a teacher that's not proud to be who you are, you don't need to be in front of kids in no way, shape, or form. So I'm like, I think that's why we're not pouring back into our community at the levels that we need to, because we're not proud of ourselves, and we're letting society basically like tell us who it is that we are. And we're letting those images or those stereotypes kind of like define us. And it's like, no, at the end of the day, when you go to bed, you look in the mirror, you define yourself in that moment, and no one has to be around when you're defining yourself. You just define yourself and you move on. But whatever anybody else says when you go to sleep, it's just you. Define yourself in that moment. You know what it is that you're doing. Define yourself there. Don't let the definition of who you are as a person like stem from outside sources, because then you're basically doing us as your community a disservice. And I see it a lot, because I ask people to come speak to my kids all the time. And there are people that I'm like, they'll tell me their story. I'm like, come talk to the kids. And they'll be like, I don't have nothing to talk about. And I'm like, there are people who are like, I don't talk to kids. And I'm like, that's different. But then to be like, you don't have anything to talk about. Like, the kids are 12 and 13. They just want to see somebody that's positive and alive and doing something that looks like them. Because a lot of times we get these white people coming in, and they love coming to the hood. They love, oh, I did, my good deed for the day. But what if we get somebody that came from the exact place that they came from, that looks like them, that is, maybe they didn't go to college, but they're still working.
Absolutely.
That's a thing. So I'm like, the kids, they need to see, kids and even some adults just need to see someone that's living positively. And living positively doesn't mean you have an abundance of money. It doesn't mean that you have, the house on the hill. It doesn't mean that you have nice cars. It just means that, like you said, it's a mindset shift.
It's about self-worth.
Yeah.
It's really about self-worth. And I think that there should be more, we should do more with teaching our kids to be self-worthy and to know their worth versus, there's that big trend about, people teaching our little brown and blacks about how to be divas. It's not about what you look like on the outside. Let's do internal inventory. And I think that that's where the problem is. We don't know our self-worth. If you cut hair and you're the best at cutting hair, then you're the best at cutting hair. I don't care if it's $8.25 an hour. You are doing good and people are going to flock to you. If you're a teacher, if you're an educator, if you're a mom, then just be the best mom. Be that person that spends an hour quality time. Not, I need to spend all this time, but it's all about self-worth, and we need to start injecting that so that we as people feel that we are worthy, that we can contribute. And then that's where that collective energy, like, I can contribute here, you can contribute, we can contribute. I didn't know we were going to be having this conversation. So we're contributing. And it's going out into the sphere where someone like your children that you're teaching, we don't know what they're dealing with at home. And so they may be dealing with some pretty serious issues. And someone coming in there saying, I had a hardship. My mom did this. I did this. I didn't grow up. High school dropout, whatever. You never know what's going on here because what they're dealing with. That young lady, I just want to say about that young lady who is very, very confused at not wanting to profess that she's black. And she looks black. Looks blacker than some blacks. With the lips and the nose and everything, that she wants to walk around and call people monkeys and stuff. You go back into that story. That was because her mom was severely broken. Her mom married a white man and told her that her dad was white. I don't know how she looked in the mirror and saw that. But her mom kept infusing that in her, you're white, you're white. So her mom was broken. But now that her mom got righteous, her mom doesn't know how to fix this persona that she built up within this person that is really shattered and confused as well. And going out into the media and calling life coaches and all these people, I'm not talking to that monkey. I'm not talking to this. Really, she is seriously delusional. But that goes to that mom. And you as a mom, me as a mom, you as a parent, we do that. We infuse that stuff into our children.
And I don't have kids.
Oh, you don't? I'm sorry.
No.
I thought you said children.
But I always give the teaching, and I always
me.
go my student. What? I don't have kids, and no, I'm not.
Correct. Let's not start a rumor.
Right, we are on the radio. No, I don't know, but I often say my kids speaking about them. That's just the connection, but I don't have kids.
Correction.
No, it's fine. They know I don't have kids. Listeners, no, but you'll often, and I have to correct myself because people will think that, and I always say my kids, and I'm like, that's just the connection that I have with the students. So, but yeah, I think she is. But like you were saying, it's a sick place to be. It's really a sick place to be, and I don't necessarily feel bad, but I pity the person that feels like that about themselves, whether they're any race. I pity anybody that does not love themselves, regardless of what it is that you're doing. It's just one of those things where it's like, how do you wake up every morning looking in the mirror? Like, how do you do that? How do you wake up every single morning and look in the mirror? And that's a hard thing. And people don't understand that when you're not real with yourself, looking at your face in the mirror, having talks with yourself, that's extremely hard if you're not being true to yourself. And some people just will not. And I've heard stories of people being like, it took me a while to actually be able to look at me in the mirror. And my godmother, she's a life coach. And she does this exercise where she gets people that are leaders, you know, that have this amount of money, and they just come to her like, you know, I'm broken and I need something. So in her classes, she has them look in the mirror, and I forgot what she said the exercise is, but they're supposed to say something to themselves. And she said a lot of the times they cannot. She said she's had grown men walk out of there crying and saying, I'm not doing this. You're trying to, you know, break me and all of this. And she said sometimes they come back, and she said sometimes they don't. And she said the ones that do come back, they're like, thank you. I needed that. But a lot of times we don't understand how important that self-worth is, or how if you haven't acknowledged your self-worth, a lot of times you don't have it. Exactly. If you aren't able to acknowledge your self-worth, and what I want people to know is like, it's not that I feel like I'm a 10 all the time. It's that sometimes I know that I do fail. Sometimes I know that I'm on 0. But at the end of the day, I know what I can get back to. I know my potential. And even if I fail, I still have potential at the end of the day. So it's like, it's not a thing where you're constantly on 10. You're the most beautiful person in the world. You're the most successful. It's even on my bad day, I know what I'm capable of. And I can be here in this bad day and not be depressed and just know that that's what it is. That's all it is a bad day. But I'm able to live on, you know, past that. And I think that's understanding your self-worth, that even when someone comes and knocks you down, or you're having a bad moment, how quickly are you able to get up, or how effective is your like self-worth to you? Your recovery, that's the word. They're back in the comments. Willis said, I don't vote. Oh, they're talking about voting still in presidential elections for Chris's exact point, but I make it a priority to always vote for the state and local elections. So Chris said, I say voting is a scam only because the popular vote never really matters. It's all up to the electoral college. Yeah. And then Willis just said it's an immediate impact when you vote in your local elections. But yeah, we kind of bounce back, but back to the topic about the just self-worth. It's very necessary. It's a very necessary thing.
Let me ask you, is there any practices that you use, like some people use affirmations, people got mantras, some people got, I don't know. Do you have any ritual that you use, like when you know you are, you can feel when you know when you got a stank attitude. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you do to get out of that, to put yourself in that position to like, all right, now I know where I'm at. Sometimes you feel like, man, I'm not doing enough, or I could be doing so much more. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel guilty for anytime I watch a movie, I start to be like, I'm wasting time, and I should just be enjoying the movie.
Like, dang, what could I be doing?
Yeah,
I think one thing that's important is sports, and that's what helped me. So I played basketball. I played since I was like 5, and I played all the way through college. It was not a year that I missed playing. I played Park League. I did travel ball, and then went to middle school, and then went to high school, and played every single year all the way up until 21. And in the games, if you miss a shot, you have to get back up, go back down the court, and you have to keep playing. Mm-hmm. If you're being blown out, you have to play until the buzzer goes off. If you're blown out by 20 in the first quarter, you still have 3 more quarters to play. And that sport just basically taught me I have to keep going. If we lost horribly on Wednesday, we had a game on Friday, and sometimes we were playing 3 days in a row. So if I lost bad on Thursday, I had to get back up and play on Friday, and then play back again on Saturday. And our coach did not expect for us to perform the way that we did on Thursday on Friday. So we had to get it together. So I think all of those years of playing kind of taught me, like, even when you're at rock bottom, like, you have to still keep going. And then also, like, I'm very grounded in my faith, and just understanding, like, I think this past week the scripture, he won't give you more than you can bear. And I was like, that's a real thing. And I said, when you honestly believe that, it's like, at the end of the day, whatever is put in front of you is not going to kill you. Absolutely. It's not going to kill you. And like they say with your body, even when you're working out and stuff, it's your mind that's telling you that you can't do it. Your body's going to do it. Your body's going to go. It's your mind that's telling you that you can't do it. And that kind of like correlates with the scripture. He won't give you more than you can bear. Okay, yeah, you hit rock bottom. Maybe you can't make your rent. You can't do X, Y, and Z. You lost your job. But, okay, there's still life. Yeah. There's still things that you can do. So I think that's crazy that you asked that, because that's something that I've been in the church since I was born and raised in the church. I've been hearing that scripture for a very long time. And literally like 2 weeks ago, it was like, oh, okay. Oh, he won't give you nothing more than you can bear. Okay, so that, and even in that moment, that changed my mindset. Like, and it's not even that I'm going through anything. It's just that even if maybe something's about to happen, I don't know. But it's just one of those things where it's like, all right, it's like nothing is going to kill me at the end of the day. So that's kind of what my mindset goes through. So all of that basketball, and then like just knowing God at the end of the day, just like really believing that like he's the cushion, he's the comfort at the end of the day. And if you're not spiritual, because I know that I have a lot of people that are not spiritual that listen, it's just, there has to be something that's bigger than you. And if you don't think that there's something that's bigger than you, there needs to be an aspect of humility that has to take place. There's something that is orchestrating things that are going on that you have to acknowledge. There's a higher power at some point. And find security in that higher power. If you don't feel like you can be secure in that higher power, you need to do your research and find something else. I mean, a lot of people, when it comes to religion and spirituality, they don't think research plays into that. A lot of people don't go to church because at this one location, the people were corrupt. And it's like, no, do your research and go somewhere else, because not everybody's the same. If this McDonald's is messed up, you might not go to McDonald's again, but there sure are healthy options. You won't just stop eating food. And spirituality, you need to be fed spiritually. So it's like one of those things where just do your research, and you can do your research religiously or spiritually, and see what it is that you need. But yeah, did you want to answer his?
So I'm a very spiritual person, and I find that I get knocked down quite a bit because I work in corporate America. Okay. And there are people who always have a lot of different agendas and how they treat people. Right. So I believe in finding simple things. I mean, I definitely know the scripture and read and all of that stuff. Right. And I probably listen to, you would never know that, but I listen to gospel music 90% of the time, all the time. Right. It just really feeds my spirit. But what I find is just finding simple things. So when I'm at work or someone's giving me a hard time, maybe I then envision me drinking some pure water and just feeding my spirit and quenching my thirst, which is my spirit, which is God, which is, that within me. So if it's not spiritual, then it's resetting me. So maybe one of the things that I like doing, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it, I like doing what's called earthing, where I take my shoes off and I'll walk in the grass and just start to be one with nature, just understanding nature. I might do that for 5 or 10 minutes and it just resets me. Because here's the thing that everyone needs to know. Anything that we go through is temporary. That comment, that question he just asked, is already in the past. That action, that woman, what she just said is already in the past. Right. In a couple of seconds, the conversation we had, this moment is in the past. So why am I anchored to the past? Right. I don't want to anchor to the past. I want to be mindful of the present. Right. So it's just about making that shift so that you can then regroup and realize I need to get back in the game.
Right. And I think I like how you didn't say mindful of the future, but mindful of the present, because a few shows back, I basically challenged the listeners to basically be grateful for where it is that you are now. A lot of times we plan for the future and we're grateful for that we're not where we used to be, but it's like nowhere in that did you acknowledge what you're doing now or where you are now. So when you said be mindful of the present, it reminded me of that, you have to go and look and yes, look back and go, well, I'm not there, but what am I doing today? And I'm grateful for who Jasmine is today, right now. And I know that the future is coming, yes. But if I don't show gratitude for right now, today, those blessings or whatever is supposed to come after will never come to me if I don't show gratitude for this moment. And a lot of times we don't understand that we're holding ourselves back from receiving. And it's like if you're not properly addressing what's happening now. And if something is wrong now, address that so that you don't have to continue to do it. And then 5 years later, you're like, now I have this burden on me because back in 2013, I didn't say no to this, or I didn't tell myself that I need to check up on this. Now we're in 2018 and you have a huge problem on your hands because you didn't want to pay attention to yourself in that moment. So being mindful of the present, I think that's a necessary thing. And yes, we know that you do have to plan for the future, yes, but make sure that you're good in that moment. Make sure that, like I was saying a few weeks ago, I was just anticipating the weekend without acknowledging what I was doing in that moment. I was just like, I just want the weekend to come. I just want the weekend to come. And it was just like excessive. And I'm like, why do I feel like this? Like, this is not how I'm supposed to be feeling. Like, I'm not here. I don't want to be here at work. And I'm at the same job. And I'm like, I just kind of was like, you can't do this. Or maybe I needed to rest a little more. So I started doing that. But it was like a literal heavy feeling where I just didn't want to be there. And with the kids that I work with, you're not going to, I can't, because I now work with special ed, and I deal with 3 and 4 year olds that none of them speak. A lot of it is just nonverbal. They know how to communicate, but they can't talk. And so imagine being with 6 or 7 of those all day and not wanting to be there. How detrimental is that to them? Yeah. So I had to check myself. Like, you have to do something better. If you have to, participate more in self-care, then you do that. But you're not going to disservice these kids. And that was me being mindful of my present and not really worrying about the future. Yes, I know that I have these goals, but at this point in time, this is where I'm placed, and this is where I have to show up, and I have to show up for these kids. So I like that you said that.
I'm thankful that you are mindful, because just a real quick, my son, when we moved to Arizona, my youngest son had a teacher that was going through a divorce, and I think that she was a little discriminating, and everything he did, she said he was failing. So she said he was reading below level, and I thought, this is not my son. My son is super smart. So I paid all this money for him to go to Sylvan. He tested the first time. He went to Sylvan, and they were like, no, he's below his grade. I'm like, okay. So 3 days a week, paid for like 6 weeks for him to go to Sylvan, which was very expensive. Right. And then we tested out again. I said, I want to test him out again. And then he was like, above. And I said, how is that? Right. You guys didn't do that. Right. Like, I know his capacity. So then I snuck into the school a couple of days and started watching how this woman behaved with these children. Now, you're with children for 8 hours a day. Right. You play a big influence on their attitude, their demeanor, their characteristics, how they're going to behave. And I started looking at this like, this woman was the problem. Took my son out of Sylvan, started saving money, right? And really realized, and she actually apologized, but she had done some damage that we had to correct for 2 years by building and pushing and telling him what he could do, just in that little bit of time. So it's very important. So I applaud you for recognizing that, because you really are impacting these kids' lives.
A lot. And this is my 3rd year teaching, and I'm like, you have to put yourself down. It's not about you. When I'm at work from 8 to 3, 8 to 2:30, or 7:30 to 2:30, and then I coach. So I coach high school girls basketball. So I'm with students from 7:30 until about 6:37 at night. And I get like my breaks in there and stuff, but I'm like, in no way, shape, or form can I not be good for them. Yes, I can get on them, not so much the kids at the school, but my girls, I can get on them and tell them what I need to tell them. But at the end of the day, I have to show up. And I have to, be there for their betterment. And if I'm not better, I can't be there for that. Exactly. But and I'm glad that you went up there. And I tell parents all the time, as someone who's in education, please go and check in on your kids' teachers. Please go and check in on what's happening, because a lot of times, even like now where I'm at, if some of the parents, or I'll say back when I first started teaching, every time we had a parent, it was very rare, but every time a parent thought enough to come in and sit in the class, about 2 weeks later, the child was taken out of the school. Because that's how negative the environment of the school was. And but the parents that we had, they didn't check in. But once we did get one parent, every so often, the kid would get checked out.
Wow.
And that was something where I was like, I'm going to be here as a teacher to help correct this behavior between the students. But as if I had children, I'm not putting my child here. And if parents ask me, how's the school? Don't bring your child there. I'm doing what I can to make sure when they're in my presence, they're good. But I wouldn't bring your child here. And I think a lot of people, and they're telling me, well, we don't have time. But I'm like, you're going to have to, like you said, for 2 years, something that could have been corrected from the gate. So you're going to have time to fix that mistake at some point in time. Now, you need to be mindful of who's, for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, this person is in front of your child. This person or this environment is affecting your child. You need to be aware of that. And that's a part of raising your child. And I'm like, when I do have kids, like, yeah, I'm going to go sit down. Let's see what's going on. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about are you learning, but are you helping the family unit prepare this child for life?
Absolutely.
So that's something that I think a lot of people don't do. And then they realize, like, well, what were you doing in school? And it's like, well, Mom, you never, not the student, but as a teacher, I'm like, Mom, you never came in. You never came in to see what was going on. And then he wasn't doing his homework. So now we're at a point where it's like, well, he's about to fail. This is that and the other. But now in the education system, if your child is failing, but they understand how to do the concepts, they have to get a passing grade. Wow. So that's something that's very different. But, and it's like, so you didn't have to come for 8 months. You could have, have all of these absences and tardies or whatever. But as long as you get the concepts, the school has to give you a passing grade. So you get passed on. So now we have these kids that are now graduating from high school. They're 18 trying to go and get hired. But they're like, but in school, I didn't have to show up. All I had to do was show that I knew how to do it. But now you have a job. You got to show up every day. And they don't understand how damaging that is. That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to be on your child. You have to get your child because the school system is not here for your child. They're here for that coin. They're here to make sure they get the check at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So someone has to care about that child. Dropping them off, that's not enough. So I'm glad that you went in to go check because that's a necessary thing. Like, even if you have the credentials, you have whatever, you have to, be a good person to the kids. So that's a necessary thing for sure. But I'm almost reaching an hour. Sometimes, do you know how long your show is going to be? Are you going to do 2 hours?
An hour.
I would do 2 hours by myself for like the first half. And it wasn't bad. But I knocked it down to an hour because I know it's like more appealing like to the ears for people that are, I appreciate that you're listening. I don't want you to have to listen to 120 minutes of me talking. So I'll give you an hour and then tell people to listen. And more people listen now that it's shorter. So that's cool. But thank you so much for joining me in my conversation.
Thank you. I didn't know that I would be part of it, but I've enjoyed it. Thank you
so
very much.
I love talking to people because I'm like, it's community. So like I said, I love one-on-one and I love hearing different perspectives and just getting people to understand like, okay, there is more of a work that needs to be done. So I was like, oh, somebody else was supposed to come, but they didn't make it. So I'm like, it just worked out. And this is a dope conversation. So hopefully, if you want to send it to your friends or whoever, you can definitely do that. But we're definitely going to tune in on, well, I will have to listen to the playback because I'll be at work. But at 9, for those of you guys who are free, tap in, get into the comments. Remember, if you are listening from the website, and you're like, oh, how is she reading comments? You can only comment from downloading the app. So it's the Good News Radio Station app. That's the only one that you can, that's the only way that you can comment. And it's like red earphones with like 2 kind of big eyes and a little smirk at the bottom. And the colors are primarily like green and red. So go download that app. You guys know that there are other dope shows. This week or within the past like 7 days, there's 2 shows that have been added. So yours and Jackie's. So, just tune in when you can. We have shows that are out of the state. We have one in Pittsburgh and one in Milwaukee. Shout out to Brunch Besties and everybody else that is on the station. And shout out to Keith for being the man behind the plan. But that is pretty much it. Did you want to, say anything else?
Thank you so very much.
Yes,
I've enjoyed my morning. Thank you.
I'm glad you did. Yeah, so this is just conversation. I just met Zena, so no, this was not anything. I didn't send her any notes. She just went off of pure, like her yearning to help and your just insight and stuff. So I definitely will be playing it back and posting, so that people can hear this information, because I not even pretty sure. I know that it will be resourceful, and I know that if you guys tap in and support this movement, or just listen, that you guys will be getting some answers that you're looking for. So that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in on this lovely Saturday. This is your girl, and then just drop your Instagram one more time.
So it's Ask Zena, Zena, and you can find me on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, and also you can find me on my website, askzena.com.
Okay, so make sure you go hit that up. Thank you, Jackie. I love you too. She said I love your show. Thanks for that too. But yeah, so that's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this Saturday. I will be back next Saturday at 10. And just have a blessed week. Bye.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so very much.
Yes, of course.
That your last comment is